Maynard James Keenan is opening up about a very interesting subject in a new appearance on Bert Kreischer's Bertcast. The dark side of the music business and how much manipulation there is when it comes to artists, and it's very fascinating. Now, Maynard's a really busy guy. In addition to being the vocalist of the legendary Tool, he's also, of course, the frontman of A Perfect Circle and also Pussifer. Both were out on the Sasanta tour earlier this year, which was a big success, celebrating Maynard's 60th birthday. And it was so successful that he also is going to be taking 2.0 out next year. Primus will also be on that run again, and hopefully with a new drummer by that time. Now, he's also a very busy entrepreneur. Maynard is, I think, in the wine business. He's got a new vinyl cafe that he just opened with his wife in Arizona. I think he's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training facility, which he's also very active in MMA. Just a really interesting guy who's done a lot, accomplished a lot, and a very productive person. I think that's really cool and inspiring. But in this new appearance on Bert Kreischer's Bertcast, he touched on a fascinating subject that has somewhat been in the news recently. If you talk about the Limp Bizkit lawsuit and you look at how they were treated in their record deal, according to this lawsuit, where the band alleges that up until earlier this year, after poking and prodding, they never got any money from their record deal. How could that happen? How does that happen? It's real interesting when you look at that, and it'll, of course, be very interesting when we look at how that lawsuit ends up being resolved, whether it goes to court, whether it's in a settlement, we'll have to see. But this is what Maynard had to say about his very unique and funny strategy for dealing with people in music who come up and try to manipulate them. This is what he had to say. Speaking to Bert on that new podcast appearance, he opened up about how people in the music industry will try to manipulate you and shower you with compliments and just how to deal with these fake people. He said, early on, we had a guy talking to us, and he said, in this industry, you're going to meet a manager who's going to introduce you to a lawyer, who's going to introduce you to the agent, who's going to introduce you to the merchandiser, who's going to introduce you to blah, blah, blah. Just round in a circle of these people you're all going to meet. They know each other, and you're new here, and they're going to compliment the fuck out of you. So every time they say anything that's a compliment, you have to replace it with dumb and naive. Oh my God, I saw you guys play last night, and you were so dumb and naive. I've never heard anything so dumb and naive. Just replace it with dumb and naive in your head and picture them with bunny ears. That's just levels. What are you actually saying to me? What are you actually saying? Because all I hear is dumb and naive. And I see the bunny ears, and inside I'm laughing. It's kind of levels what's being said. At the end of the day, we write songs. We play the songs. What are we talking about right now? What do you want? This is such a fascinating subject to me. Among the most fascinating topics. Really valuable insight there from Maynard James Keenan, an industry veteran. And I got to tell you, I've met a lot of people in music, and you can pretty quickly tell the difference between the hacks and the genuine people. And the good news is there's a lot of genuine people. There really are. And there are also people who you just get a certain vibe from them. I know a lot of you sometimes hear like, oh, yeah, he's always talking about this artist. He's always talking about that artist. At least I have power over what I talk about, and I talk about things that I'm genuinely interested in. And so when I hear artists talk about things like this, it makes me even more grateful that my only boss is you. And the only compliments that I give a fuck about come from you. And so Maynard is spot on here. And when we look at things like the Limp Bizkit lawsuit, a massive band, a band that other than Slipknot, it's like those two bands are tied for like my favorite bands of all time. Those two bands have had a huge, profound impact on me. And so when I look at both of those bands have been outspoken about having bad experiences with record deals early on in their career. And so if you're an artist coming up, understand that there are other ways to do this. There are bands like Skillet. They just dropped off their record deal, major deal. They're doing things independent now. All That Remains, they're doing things independent now. There's so many different artists that are doing things independent. I'm sorry that I'm not mentioning other great examples, but that is a viable path for you too. But you should really scrutinize what you're signing and who you're working with and what the relationships are between the people. If you got a contract dispute with your manager, how the are you going to go through your lawyer who's their best friend? It's interesting. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. But, you just see some of the stuff that he's talking about and you're like, yeah, that's crazy. How does that work? So I hope that if there's anything we can do here, it's that we can pay close attention to things like this Limp Bizkit lawsuit and hopefully educate the next generation of artists to protect themselves from these stories repeating themselves, because it sickens me that these bands, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, allegedly have not been paid what they deserve for their art form that has influenced so many of us. And obviously it's not just Limp Bizkit and Slipknot either. It's so many others. So kudos to Maynard for really sharing that insight, and I hope that people will take that. That's like stuff you every so often you're like, that's really valuable what he's saying. Don't be subject to compliments. The only compliments that should matter to you are the compliments that come from your fans. Don't let these business people flatter you and shit. Do your own thing. Be your own person. Do things your own way. And then when it makes sense, work with other people. That's just my 2 cents. Anyways, that's your latest update here from Rockfeed. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on for the latest news and updates.